Okay, so today we are going to pretty much pick up where we left off last week, but instead of graphing from factored form, we're going to be reading graphs and writing in factored form. So we're not actually doing anything brand new today. We're just, like we have been, rearranging everything that we're doing, putting it all together. So for our first example, we need to classify and write the orientation of this graph. So what is the classification for example one? Is it even or odd? Is it even or odd?
Odd.
Okay, good. Why is it odd? Because there are 3 intercepts, and if I graph from one end to the other, they go in the opposite direction. And is this going to be a positive or negative graph then? This is positive because if I look right there, that has a positive slope. So I have odd, positive. Okay. Because yes, it is a 3rd degree, but all you need to do is say if it's odd or even. Now for my in behavior, this part is always the same. I had a lot of questions about it today. So for in behavior, I have as x goes to positive infinity, f of x goes to something, and as x goes to negative infinity, f of x also goes to something. So the thing we're trying to figure out is right here. But all of those other parts stay the same, and that's true for every single in behavior I have. I always have to look as x goes to the right and as x goes to the left. So as x goes to the right, where does y go? Does it go up or does it go down? It goes up, which is to positive infinity, right? Okay. And what about as x goes to the left? Where does y go? Goes down, which is negative infinity. So that little box, that little bit in the yellow highlight, that is the only part that changes for end behavior. Everything I just wrote in blue, that's always going to be the same. So I would fill that in at the beginning every single time. Now for my intercepts, what kind of intercepts do I have?
-4.
What kind? X intercepts and Y intercepts. And I keep going over this because we always forget the Y intercept. Or not necessarily always, but more often than not. So Diego, what was my first x-intercept?
-4.
Okay, -4, 0.
Yeah.
No, you just said -4. That's a root. I need a point. You know, you got to write the 0, because some of you think the 0 and don't write it, like on the test. What is my second x-intercept?
-1.
-2, 0, and +1, 0. Okay, what's my y-intercept? 0, -8. You have to write those zeros. You guys keep trying to get away without writing them. You have to write the zeros. If I'm asking for an intercept, it's a coordinate pair. Yes? Why is it -8? Because this is scaled by 4s. I know it's hard to read. Yeah, because you don't multiply the x-intercepts, remember? You got to plug it into the factored form. That's why we keep missing the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you don't multiply the roots together. Okay? Now, finally, I have factored form. F of x equals, what is this in factored form? What's my first factor?
-4.
No.
4.
X plus 4, then what? X plus 2, then what? X minus 1. Now, Helene, if you look, 4 times 2 times -1, that's -8. That's how I get the y-intercept. Okay? And that's all the information I needed for example 1. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Are you ready for number 2? Yeah? Okay, let's look at the second one. I need classification and orientation. That is even and positive. Good. Even and positive. So we're going to fill that in. Okay. Then for end behavior, how do I do end behavior? Mm-hmm.
What?
As x goes to infinity. f of x goes to, and x goes to negative infinity. Okay, so I need to figure out where does y go in both of these cases. So as x goes to the right, where does y go? Up, which is positive infinity. And as x goes to the left, where does y go? It also goes to positive. So these are the same because they both go up. Does that make sense? Excuse me. Now I have x-intercepts and y-intercepts. What are my x-intercepts? Negative 3, 0. Negative 2, 0. You guys can just read them straight off the page. What's the next one? Negative 1, 0, or not. And what's the last one? 1, 0. Thank you, Emma. The rest of you, I'm not so sure about. Oh, you're just writing and thinking about food? The y-intercept is 0, negative 6. And then my equation in factored form is f of x equals what? Okay. X plus 2. Okay, do we know how to fill that all in? Because you will have another test next week. Yes. It seems what? That's because we're not dividing. I think tomorrow or the day after, we're going to start from standard form, which means you have to divide instead of just being given like factored form. Okay, ready for example 3? Can we do number 3? You guys awake today? Basically what? Okay, number 3. Is this even or odd? Good, and it's negative. Why is it not negative? But why? Yeah, because it has like a positive slope like that. Okay, if I drew a line, it's a positive slope. So it's odd, positive. What is my end behavior? Thank you, Caesar. Like this. So I like to fill all this in from the beginning because it never changes. Now, as x goes to the right, where does y go? Where does f of x go? As I go to the right, do I go up or down? Okay, so that's positive infinity. And as I go to the left, where do I go? As I go to the left, where do I go? Down, which is negative infinity. Okay, I have x-intercepts. And I have y-intercept. What are my x-intercepts? Negative 1, 0. What else? 0, 0. Positive 3, 0. What's my y-intercept? 0, 0. Now, does that mean I have multiplicity 2 at this point? No, it means they're just the same exact point. Okay? So in factored form, how do I write this? F of x equals what? X. And then an x plus 1. And then an x minus 3. Where did that x come from? The one all by itself. That's my 0, 0 point. I can write x plus 0 there, but I can also write x. So if you wrote x plus 0 times x plus 1 times x minus 3, that's also okay. Ready for number 4? What did you say? It's even and negative? Do we agree with Diego? For once? This is the first time he moved ahead and got it right? Okay, it is even and it is negative because it is facing down. I know it's even because the graph, both of the ends face in the same direction. I know it's negative because that direction is down. So my end behavior is as x goes to infinity. Where does f of x go? And as x goes to negative infinity. Where does f of x go? Oh, I'm tired. So as I move to the right, where does y go? Is it up or down? Down. So that is negative infinity. And what about as I move to the left? That is also down. My intercepts for x. Okay, my first one is negative 1, 0. Do we agree? Okay. And positive 3, 0. And y-intercept is 0, 3. Because it crosses through the y-axis between 2 and 4 on that graph. So then in factored form, I have f of x equals x plus 1 times x minus 3. Yes? Okay, so since this is a negative graph, yes, there should be a negative out front. That was my bad, man. Since it's negative, since I wrote negative, there has to be a negative sign here. Okay. So every time you write negative, you have to include a negative in your equation. Okay. Was that the first negative graph we've had? Okay. You ready for number 5? Next is number 5. On this one, do I have all the key features? No, mine is blank, so that means I need to come up with them. So what is my first key feature? It's on your papers. Classification and orientation. So what is the classification for this? Even. And the orientation? Negative. So like on the last one, I have negative, so I need to include that in the end. What comes after classification and orientation? In behavior. And again, I have all of this information. Okay, so as I move to the right, as x goes to the right, where does y go? Does it go up or down? It goes down. It's facing down. And what about as I move to the left? Does x go up or down? It also goes down. So both of these go to negative infinity. Okay. What is my next piece of key, or my next key feature? Intercepts. Good. So I have my x-intercepts and my y-intercepts. So what are my x-intercepts? Negative 2, 0. What's happening at negative 2, 0? It bounces. So what does that mean? Multiplicity 2. What's my next one? 2, 0, and what happens at there? It also bounces, so I have multiplicity 2 again. So in total, how many x-intercepts did I have? I have 4. What about my y-intercept? Where is that at? 0, negative 16. We're literally just reading it off the graph. And my last key feature was what? The equation in factored form, or what else do we call factored form? Product of linear factors. Yes, thank you. Okay, so this is f of x equals what? Negative. Then what's the equation? X minus 2 quantity squared and x plus 2 quantity squared. Now, does the order of that matter? No. But so you don't get it mixed up. The x minus 2 quantity squared, that goes with my positive intercept, and the x plus 2 goes with my negative intercept, okay? Any questions so far? Yes, question. Why is it even? Both of the ends are going in the same direction. And then when I count them up, so see how I have multiplicity 2 and multiplicity 2? How many intercepts total is that for x? That's why it's even. Only the x-intercepts, yeah, because you will always have one y-intercept. Okay? Good question. Any other questions? Are you ready for our last one before I let you finish the rest? Okay. Last one is number 6. Okay, so my first key feature is classification and orientation. So what is this? Odd. And if I drew a line for a slope, what kind of slope is that? That is negative. Okay, what comes after classification and orientation? In behavior. Good. And what is the in behavior? As x goes to infinity, where does f of x go? And x goes to negative infinity, where does f of x go? So as I move to the right, where does y go? Down to negative infinity. And as I move to the left, where does y go? Up to positive infinity. Okay. Is in behavior getting a little bit easier? I know that one's normally the most difficult one. Next I have intercepts. So I have my x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So my x-intercepts, what's my first one? Good, negative 5, 0, multiplicity 2. Negative 1, 0. What else? And 2, 0. Multiplicity 2. And it ran off the board, but it says multiplicity 2. And where's my y-intercept at? 0, negative 100. Finally, I have my factored form, or my product of linear factors, which is f of x equals what? Negative, good. X plus 5 quantity squared times x plus 1 times x minus 2 quantity squared, okay? That's the last one I have for you today. You're going to work on the next 12 of them, I think.